Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name's Alexis, and yeah, today we are going to do a review over the book Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. So this book, I think I rated it either a 3 or a 4, probably a 4 on GoodReads, and I think that I would say it's probably about a 3.9. I really enjoyed it. I actually read the last 400 pages or so in one night, so that happened. I clearly was very into it, and I clearly enjoyed it, so there's that. This book centers around Simon Snow, and if you've read the book Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, then Simon is actually one of the characters in that book as well. That book, Fangirl, the main character is Kath, and she is writing a fan fiction, or she writes a popular fan fiction about Simon Snow. So this is in turn a fiction book that's also in another fiction book. It's fiction inside of a fiction, so it makes the original fiction feel more real, because now the fiction that was inside of the fiction now exists in real life as well. I don't know if that made any sense. It's a fiction inside of a fiction. And I actually really enjoy the idea of that Rainbow Rowell felt so inspired by these characters, even though she was only writing them through another character, that she was inspired to write a whole book. Actually, I think I have two back there, but I wonder if she's written a third or fourth book. I have no idea, actually. I just know about the second book. But I think it's just a really cool concept. The whole book is a really cool concept. So I'm going to start with some more non-spoilery aspects of this book, so that way if you have not read this book and you are interested in reading it, then you can actually go read it for yourself and come back to this video for the spoiler part. If you don't mind spoilers, then feel free to watch the whole video right off the bat. But I will definitely be telling you when that will happen. This story takes place in England, at Watford mainly. Watford is the boarding school similar to Hogwarts. There are no houses though, which is very interesting. And there's no like Quidditch equivalent. She doesn't really make a new sport. She just does football, American soccer. American soccer. That's never been a phrase ever. So they are in England at Watford for their last year. So I think they're 17, if I remember correctly. And Simon Snow is the main character, along with his best friend Penny, his girlfriend Agatha, and his roommate and kind of nemesis Baz, and they are trying to defeat the Humdrum, which is a very interesting name for an evil villain thing. But the name is because the feeling that you feel when the Humdrum is near, apparently. It's a very interesting thing. And so it picks up, and the first thing you really know is that it's very dangerous for Simon to be at Watford, but it's also very dangerous for him to not be at Watford. Because for some reason, everything always happens when he's there, and all of his summers are very normal, per se. So it's only while he is at Watford that all these strange occurrences happen, and that his life is in danger. He's having a hard time, and he's trying to figure out how to defeat the Humdrum, because he knows that he has to defeat the Humdrum soon, and theoretically before he graduates. So there's that. But yeah, I think that's all for this non-spoiler part. So if you haven't read the book and you want to read the book, then go ahead and click off this video and come back to it after you've read it. But if you don't mind spoilers, or if you've already read the book, then continue watching. So let's talk about Baz's relationship with Simon. I love it. I love it so much. It's actually part of the reason why I continued reading. That night that I read the 400 pages, was because I accidentally flipped to like page 300 and something, I forget what it was, and I saw the kiss, and I was like, wait a second, what? Because I was just trying to find a stopping point. I was thinking about only reading, like, I originally wanted to read only 35 pages that night, and then I decided after the 35 that I wanted to read an additional 35. So then got to the 70-page mark, and I was like, this is not a good place to stop. So then I was flipping to trying to find a good place to stop, and I saw it. I ruined it for myself. I accidentally flipped too far. That's not where I meant to flip. I meant to flip within the 200 range. Mainly because at that time, I think I was at like 175, because that night I'd started around the 100s. So there's that. I read a lot of pages that night. So yeah, I love the idea of the relationship. That part of the reason that Baz comes off as he hates Simon is because he actually loves him and doesn't want to hurt him. It's a very interesting idea that this person who has tried to hurt you on multiple occasions then turns out to hate the idea of not being with you and not sharing a room. I think it's interesting. But I just think it's a great inclusion for an LGBTQ relationship, which it's kind of unclear what acronym Simon would fall under. It's very clear that Baz would be gay, and Baz says that he's gay, so that is determined. But I wonder if Simon is bi or if Simon is gay, because Simon does start with a girlfriend, and I can't tell if he actually was in love with Agatha or if, that was just part of him learning more about himself. It kind of, the way it's written, I kind of see that he might be a little bit bi. I don't know. It's never really clarified, but he's definitely somewhere in the spectrum, and I think it's really cool to see not only one person that is one of the main characters that is a part of the community, but also the main character is part of the community as well, and I think that's a really cool inclusion. Going on to the magic system a little bit. It's a very interesting magic system where you have to say things that are common phrases in language. I think that I haven't really read anything like that before, where a certain spell could go out of style, per se, if the general populace no longer spoke those words. I think it's a very interesting concept. And I think that's another reason why I was very intrigued by this book. It's a type of magic system that I have not read thus far, and it's kind of nice to see something that's not just like cookie cutter. They go to a boarding school, they learn magic type of situation, or they learn magic from a certain person in their life and it just gets passed on. It's just interesting that it could be words that regular people would be saying, and that's the whole entire point. You want the general populace to keep on saying these words so that old spells don't go out of fashion. It's cool. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just, I haven't really seen that. It's every other magic system that I've read so far has been the type where it's a certain spell does a certain thing, and it's always going to be that certain spell that does that certain thing. But you can make a spell for a different thing, and you could figure out what different spells and what different actions do the things. Best example is like Harry Potter with Wingardium Leviosa. I don't know if I'm really coming across this in a coherent way, but it's a very weird and novel magic system for me, but I think that's what made this book so enjoyable, or part of the reason why it made it enjoyable. And then there's the whole humdrum situation. That was also very interesting to me because the humdrum ended up just being a version of Simon. I kind of saw that coming at one point. It took me a little while, but once I started to figure out, hey, it tends to happen when he's doing magic. So they're connected in some way. It was very clear that they were connected somehow. And knowing from pretty much the very beginning that the humdrum looked like a 12-year-old version of Simon, that kind of tipped me off a little bit too. So that was it was predictable, but also kind of not in a way. But it's definitely not something that will necessarily challenge you, and I wish that it challenged me a little bit more, and that it pushed me to think a little bit more outside the box. It is a little bit outside the box considering that, literally Simon is his worst enemy. So to defeat his enemy, he has to rid himself of magic, which is so weird to think about. But then it also feels just kind of weird that at the end the hero wins, but also in a way loses because he no longer has any magic whatsoever. That I did not necessarily foresee. I thought maybe he would still keep his magic, especially because I have a second book, and so I assumed that the second book he would also be doing magic in that one, but he doesn't. So, but there was a twist that I called a little bit into the book. I don't think I realized it as soon as it did the humdrum, but I realized it somewhere around that same time frame, was that the mage is most definitely Simon's fault. With the little interjections from Lucy, that is what tipped me off. It was a very interesting thing to realize that the mage gave his son up. But not only that, he created Simon. He conceived Simon with Lucy, right? In order to make the best mage, so that the best mage could defeat the most evil thing, which the most evil thing just so happened to be also the best mage. So the mage did end up fulfilling the prophecy, but he also made it so the prophecy came true. He was so obsessed with this idea and with power that he created this nonsense, and he released vampires on Wofford, which ended up making Baz a vampire. For a character that is supposed to be a mentor, it's also kind of like the mage is the worst enemy in a way, and the best thing the mage could have done to help with this prophecy, per se, is to not conceive a child with Lucy. He was the reason why this whole mess started, and he caused a lot of deaths, and he caused a lot of suffering, all because he thought he was helping the world, which is a terrifying thought, that he ended up being so obsessed with this, and being so obsessed with power, and being obsessed with fulfilling the prophecy and figuring out everything, that he ended up being the cause of his own doom. It's just so bizarre in a way. a little bit predictable, but definitely not as predictable as the humdrum being Simon. So, but there was too many hints, I think, about that, as well as the humdrum being Simon. There was too many hints in it, but then again, I'm also a 22-year-old reading this book, so, I mean, I feel like this book could easily be a good book to read to a child, per se. Maybe, okay, maybe not, actually, because there is a decent amount of cussing in it. But it would be something that you could maybe read to an older child and maybe censor some of those things out if you don't really want them to hear cuss words. But I don't know, it's a really cool concept. The whole book is really cool. I think it was done pretty well. I think there was just too much foreshadowing in it, and that might just be my personal taste, but I think overall it's good for LGBT inclusion. It's good for a different type of magic system, and I think it's a creative way of looking into this idea of what would a hero look like, a hero magic world, and like how would it be different.
So I accidentally deleted the rest of the footage. So what I was saying here was that it's a very interesting take on this trope, in that there is a different magic system and everything differs from the norm, and that it's not exactly like all of the other books that have this type of boarding school where they learn magic. It's not exactly a Harry Potter copy per se. It still has its own flavor and flair to it that makes it a very interesting read, and it makes it very enjoyable. And so for that, I actually really like this. So yeah, please hit the like button if you like this video, as well as hit the subscribe button for more content like this, as well as some lifestyle videos. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell as well, so you actually get notified when I do post next. I do have a schedule that I am hopefully sticking to. So here on this channel, here on Thursdays and Sundays, and then on my second channel, which if you didn't know that I had a second channel, I now have a gaming channel, that I post on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So yeah, I'll definitely have my second channel here as well as in the description below with all the rest of my social media. Feel free to follow me and comment down below. And yeah, I will see you next time. Bye.